Hello everyone, my name is Ankit Jain. I welcome you all to my channel Tech Journey with Ankit. This video is in the continuation of our OAuth 2.0 series. I already published the two videos on this OAuth 2.0 series. First one was the overview of the OAuth 2.0 and the second one was on the connected app. In case you folks didn't got a chance to check out those videos, I will put the link in the video description to check that out. In today's video, we will be talking more about the first OAuth 2.0 flow, that is the authorization code flow, which is also referred as the web server flow. In this video, we will try to understand the different things about this flow. For example, benefits. We'll try to understand what all scenarios that you should go and consider the authorization code flow and also do some demo as well. Without wasting our time, now we can get started with this flow now. So in case you folks like to have one-to-one connect with me, you guys can do that on the top mat. If you scan this QR code for the top mat, you will be landed upon this page where you will get two options. First one, to have one-to-one call with me where you can discuss your Salesforce queries. In case you are preparing for the interviews, you want to do some mocks, we can do that here. Moreover, on the second tab, there is the option for the digital product, where few of the popular digital products which are available, like the LWC notes, and along with the notes, you will also get the code as well. Moreover, the fundamentals of the data cloud as well as the admins, which are also available. Not only that, in case you folks are preparing for the interview and looking for the in-depth guide with the more than 350 plus questions as well as the codes that I have developed on my playlist of the interview prep, then you should definitely check that out. This interview prep guide as well. It not only have the 350 plus questions, but also the detailed solutions for each and every question as well. It is helpful not only for the freshers but also for the experienced professionals too. Now, let's move to our topic of discussion where we will be discussing the different things today. We'll get started with the overview of the web server flow. Then we will try to understand what all different steps that needs to be followed if you have to go and implement the web server flow. What all the typical use cases for the web server flow, and we will try to understand this with the help of benefits as well as the disadvantage. Then I will have few MCQs for you folks to answer, and then I will take you to the demo part as well. Now, the first one, let's go over the overview of the web server flow. So, web server flow, as I said, it is also referred as the authorization code flow. It's a secure OAuth flow. It is used when the client applications like a web app, and the key part here is can safely store the secret. If you folks recall, in the case of connected app, we discussed that we can have, whenever we are creating the connected app, we have the client id as well as the client secret. Client id is something which will act like a username, but the client secret is something which acts like a password, right? If you are doing the integration with the client application which is capable to store the secret, right? And then on the behalf on, and then by sharing those secret they can access that data, right? Then you should go for the web server flow. So the key requisite for the authorization code flow that you should go for, the client application can safely go and store the secret. Okay. Now, it is typically used by the applications that run on the secure web server. Secure web server means like the AWS server, Azure server, Heroku server. If your applications are running on the secure web server, right, where they can go and hide the secret code, or they can keep secretly or securely store that secret code, then and then only you should go for the authorization code grant. With respect to the Salesforce, now Salesforce can also safely store the secret flow. So in the any third party system have to connect with the Salesforce, they can again use the authorization code grant flow as well. Now let's try to understand the typical steps of the OAuth 2.0 authorization code flow. The very first step that we do have here is, for example, you are dealing with a client application, right? And what you have to do, you have to go and click on the button login with Salesforce. Okay, so what will happen here is you will show your intent as a part of very first step, that I want to log into the Salesforce to access the Salesforce data. What will happen as soon as you go and show your intent, the client will ask the authorization server for the permission. And when the client is asking the authorization server for the permission, it will share the few important things. First one, it will share the client id. We already discussed what is client id. Next thing, it have to also share the scope. Scope means nothing but what kind of permissions that they should have. We already discussed that in the past videos, as well as the third thing, that is the redirect URI. So when the client is going to the authorization server for the permissions, the three things that needs to be sent. First one is the client ID, second one is the scope, and the third one here is the authorization server. Now, the third next thing, what the authorization server will prompt you to go and provide your consent, right? The authorization server in our scenario, we are taking the authorization server as the Salesforce only, okay, which will prompt you to log in if you haven't already. In case the authorization server you are taking as the Google or the LinkedIn, it can be anything. Then the very first thing that they will ask you to log in case you are not logged in. Basically, they will take you to the consent page where you will actually go and allow or deny the client request. Now, if for example, let's say you have accepted, you have provided the consent, then the next step what will happen, and this is kind of a very important step, where the authorization server will redirect the browser, right, whatever to the redirect URI. As I said, while sending the request, what you are sending here is the redirect URI, right? Now, to this redirect URI, authorization code, what it will do, it will go and authorization code, what it will do, it will go and redirect it. And while redirecting, it will also make sure that it is sending single use authorization code. I will show you this in practice, right? When I show you the demo part, right? What it will share the single use authorization code. Now the authorization code has been sent back to the client. Now what the client will do, client will take this authorization code, right, and it the client now send the request to get the access token, because to go and access any resources which are available on the resource server, what you need is the access token. So the client will take the authorization code and pass the few other details like the client secret key or the redirect URI, and what it will get in the exchange here is the access token from the authorization server. Now the client have the access token. Client can send that request to the resource server and access the data from the system. So these are the typical steps that needs to be followed whenever you are using the authorization code flow. So very first step, again I am iterating quickly. You will show your intent. Based on the intent and along with the uh, based on your intent, the authorization server will ask you for the few details. For example, it will ask you for the client's ID. It will ask you for the scope as well as the redirect URI. In case you are not logged in, it will ask you to go and log in. As soon as the consent has been provided, then the authorization code will be issued. And this authorization code, it's a single use authorization code which have a very limited lifetime. Okay, and now once the authorization code has been issued, what you will do to request the access token, you will go and send the request along with the client ID, client secret, redirect URI, and the authorization code to the resource server, and what you will get in return here is the access token. Now with that access token, you can go and send the request. Everything that I am putting up here in the demo, I will show you in practice how the system is sending the authorization code and how you will get the access token from the system. Now, what all the different benefits that we do have for the authorization code flow? First one, it is very much secure because it is based on the OAuth 2.0. As I said, it is best suited for the apps that can protect the client secret. It is best suited for the app that is the can protect the client secret. What are the other security things that it is adding? Token has been exchanged securely over the back channel, and as I said, the authorization code that has been shared, it is available for the very limited lifetime, so that it will also minimize the risk as well. Moreover, the refresh token part will also be supported if you go for this flow. It will have the strong attack protection. It will have the defense against the different types of attacks that can happen, like the CSPR, CSRF attack or the replay attack, right? All these attacks can be prevented using this flow, right? Again, with respect to the Salesforce now, Salesforce, whenever you are sending the request to the Salesforce with this flow, Salesforce will provide you the both access token as well as the refresh token as well, right? Again, If you are integrating the two different Salesforce org, it also supports the name credential and allow the admin controls via the profiles as well. So if you are integrating the two different Salesforce org and want that integration should be in place using the authorization code flow, that's also completely possible. Coming to the limitations now of this particular flow here is secure server is required. If you don't have the secure server, right, then you have to look for the another flow like the PKCE. We'll talk about the PKCE flow in our next session. It is not for something like the headless applications. For example, if you do have some middleware or you have to do the integration between the two different servers, then this type of flow is not recommended. So it is unsuitable for the ETL or the middleware. Right? In such scenarios, you should go for the jot flow or the SAML flow. They are the better options. Again, we will explore these flows down the line. The key requirement for this flow here is, as I said, you have to go and provide the consent. Oh, sorry, you have to go and provide your consent. So user must log in and give consent, which is not applicable in all the scenarios. If your business requirement do demands the consent should be there, then you should go for this kind of a flow. And there are few mandatory rules like the redirect URI, it must exactly match. In case there is a misconfiguration, then definitely the whole process can break and the security can be compromised as well. So it is very important to go and provide the redirect URI as well. Okay. Now, based on what we have discussed, there are few MCQs that I want to put for you, and I want you guys to attempt to answer all those MCQs. I will put the answers for these MCQs in the next video. But meanwhile, I want you guys to definitely attempt these MCQs and put your solutions, what put your thinking in the comment section. The first question here is, what type of client application is the authorization code flow primarily designed for? Whether it is designed for the single page applications, mobile applications, server based application that can store a client secret, ETL tools, or the command line application. Do let me know your answer. Next one here is, which of the following represents a key limitation or a scenario where authorization code flow is not recommended. So basically, what all the scenarios where the authorization code flow is something that is not recommended. So just now we discussed about the limitations of the authorization code flow. So you can easily pick the answer whether the client application needs to interact with the user through a browser. In such scenarios, it is not recommended. When the client application can securely protect a client secret, in such scenarios, it is not recommended. When the application like the ETL tool or middleware that can access the API without UI, in such scenarios, it is not recommended. When the authorization server needs to support the PKC, right? In such scenarios, you cannot go and use it. And when the flow is used to have the server to server integrations between the Salesforce orgs, then also it is not recommended, right? Let me know what are your thoughts in what scenarios you should not go and use the authorization code flow. The next question here is, what types of tokens are typically written by the Salesforce using the authorization code flow? Right? There are two things that we generally get from the authorization server. Whether we get only the access token or a refresh token, we get an access token and a refresh token both, right? Whether we get an ID token and a refresh token and authorization code and the request token. Again, I want to iterate here. I am talking about the tokens. Okay, so don't get confused with the code. What kind of tokens are typically written by the Salesforce when you are using this kind of a flow? Now we'll move to the demo part. We will try to understand how you should go and design this flow. The very first step that we have to do here is we have to first go and create the external client application. So let me go and quickly do this. I will go and create the external client application now. In my org, I'm navigating here to the app manager, and here I will be creating the external client app. I'm naming that client app here as the authorization code flow. Right, let me put my email address here. After that, phone number, it's not required. The rest of the things are optional, so you can go and skip it for now. Okay, what you have to do to enable this OAuth 2.0 flow, you have to go here and click Click on this will enable the auth flow. Once you enable the auth flow, you have to go and put the callback url. So this is how your callback url should look like. Again, it is not mandated that you have to put the exact url, but this is something that we follow in the Salesforce. I will put this callback url again in the video description. You can also use the same callback url for your practice. Now we have to go and define the auth scopes. We already discussed about what is scope in our last sessions. Scopes are something which will define what kind of access that the third party will have whenever they are performing the integration. So here I am giving them a kind of a full access at this moment because we are doing it for the testing. But in the real world, you can go and shape the access the way you want. Once you have defined the OAuth scope, then you have to go and confirm what kind of OAuth flow that you want to use. In my scenario, I want to use the authorization code flow or the web flow. So here I'll be selecting this particular flow from here. I don't want to use the PKCE extension. What is PKCE? We'll talk about this in more detail in our next video. But at this moment, I am just taking this out and click on the create button. So my OAuth flow is created now. Once you go and create the OAuth flow, basically what you will get from the system here is the client ID and the client secret, which we already discussed in our last video. What is client ID and the client secret? Client ID is more like your password, and the client secret, it is more like your client ID is more like your username, and the client secret, it is more like your password that you want to use. Now let me go and enter the code here. And click on verify. So this is what you will get: consumer key and the consumer secret. So this is the very first step that we have to do. Whenever any third party system will be calling the Salesforce, we have to go and create the connected app in the Salesforce and share this consumer key and the consumer secret to them. We don't share the username and password. That is the main benefit of the OAuth we already discussed. Now, what is the next step that we should do to go and do this integration? So to do that, again, I will take you to the documentation. Okay, before again we move further, what we will do, we should go and take a note of these few things in our notes. So very first thing, I'm taking the note of the my domain. So this is what my domain is. You can also go to the setup menu and get the my domain, or you can switch to the classic version and get the my domain. It's quite easy. I'm taking this my domain from my consumer details page because it is open under the classic version, right? So here I go and put that authorization flow. Let's say this is my domain URL. So here I go and put the domain URL. Now the next thing that I need to also have here is the client ID and the client secret. This is my consumer key. I'm putting everything at the one place because it will be easy for me then go and do the next steps. Then I do have my consumer secret. This is only doing for my convenience. Again, this is not a mandatory step that you should always do. Next thing here is you should also have the redirect URI with you. Redirect URI is nothing but this callback URL that we have specified. So here I am copying this and putting up here. Redirect URI. Now, once you have all those things with you, what we have to do now, we will go and do this testing from the Postman because we don't have any third party system. We will replicate these steps with the help of the Postman, where we will ask the Postman to connect with the Salesforce using the authorization code flow. And to do that, we will follow the Salesforce documentation of the Salesforce authorization code flow. Again, this is the authorization flow that we do have, with the help of which we can go and connect. Any external system can go and connect. And at this moment here, I'll be going for the web server flow. That is our authorization code flow. So what all different steps that you have to follow? You have to go and request the authorization code. So here I go and do the very first step, that is request an authorization code. And for that, I'm navigating here to the Postman. Let me go and create the new workspace here. It's a blank workspace that I am creating, and I'm giving the name here as OAuth 2.0 take journey with Ankit. Right, I'm making it only for me. Clicking on the create. Now in that workspace, let me go and add one collection. So here I am creating the new blank collection, and I'm giving the collection name here is, let's say, authorization code flow. right? And now in this code flow, we will follow all the steps as they have mentioned in the document. The very first step that we do have here is request and authorization code. So here I go, let me zoom this. I will be creating the first request inside this. So adding the request, and I'm naming that request here is request and authorization code, right? So what this request should go, again, if you read this documentation, what they are saying here is you have to go and prepare this request and send this request in the form of URL. Okay, and this is what also we have learned based on our theory, that we should, once we go and send the request, basically what we will get in return here is the code. So let me copy this complete request and I'm putting it here at this moment. Okay, let me go and remove all the additional spaces from here. Right now there are few parameters that we have to fill. First parameter is the client ID. We already have the client ID with me. This is my client ID, so I'm copying this client ID and putting up here. Next thing here is the redirect URI. In my scenario, the redirect URI is this, so I'm copying this redirect URI and putting up here. Make sure that there are no additional spaces, right, whenever you go and put something here. And you do have the response type as the code. So this is how my endpoint will look like. I need to also go and put my own domain name here. So to put the domain name, I already have captured the domain name here. So let me copy this, coming back here, and I will be putting the domain name. So here I will be removing from my domain name till .com, and I'm replacing this with this. Again, in case there are duplicate slashes, make sure that there should be only one slash after the .com and the services. So this is how my URL will look like. And what I will be doing now, I will be sending this URL here, and what I will get here, you can see as soon as I send that request, as I have explained in the documentation, that whenever you go and send the request, what the system will do, system will go and ask you for the consent. Here you can see the system is asking me for the consent based on my request, and here I am clicking on the allow button to provide the consent. As soon as you go and send the consent, what the system will return, the single use authorization code. That's what we have discussed. What the system will return here is the single use authorization code in the URL. Here you can see I do have my single use authorization code in the URL. So this is what my code is. Right now, coming back to the documentation one more time, they have explained the same thing in the documentation. Once you go and put the URL, in case you are not logged in, the system will ask you for the logged in, and system will take your consent. And here you will have your code in the URL. This is the unique code. It's a one-time use code which expires after the 15 minutes. So the validity of this code is only the 15 minutes. Now, by using this code, what you have to do now, you have to go and get the request token or the access token. So how we can go and get the access token now? So let's go and prepare the request for this. This time we have to go and send the post request. So I'll be creating another request. Let me go and save this, and I'll be creating another request, and I'm giving the request name as request and access token. So very first thing I should go and do here is I should go and put my domain URL here. My domain URL will be okay. Let me first change the request to post. Here I am putting my domain URL, right? And after the domain URL, what they are mentioning in the documentation here is you should go and put the slash services slash OAuth 2 slash token. So I'm simply following the documentation, not doing anything by myself. First putting the domain name, after that followed by this. Next thing what we have to do here is they are asking us to put the content type. So there are few headers which are optional. In case you want to put it, but that are optional. But there is one header which is mandatory, that you have to go and put the content type here as the this one. So here I go and put the content type. Next thing that we have to go here and define the body. So while defining the body, make sure that you are first selecting the www form URL encoded, because this is the header that you have defined here. So in the body, make sure that you are selecting this and then pass the different key. What all different keys that your token is expecting. First one here is the grant type. So here I am passing the grant type. Next one here is the, and the value for the grant type also, let me go and paste it. It is authorization code. Make sure that you are not selecting the ampersand here. So here I go and put the authorization code. Next one that it is expecting here is the code. I will come back to the code in a while, but for the time being I am simply putting a placeholder. Next thing that we have to do here is we have to also go and put the client ID, client secret. So here I do have my client ID, and after that I do have my client secret that I already stored in my documentation, and finally the redirect URI as well. So here I go and put the redirect URI. Client ID I already have here, so let me copy the client ID, and here I go and put that client ID. Next thing here is the client secret. So come here, copying the client secret and putting up here. And the last thing is the redirect URI. So here I am copying my redirect URI. Make sure that there should not be any additional space while you are copying. So here I go and paste my redirect URI. Now coming back to the code. The code is something that we already received, right? When we go and send the request. So, but what we have to do now, the code that we have received, we have to go and decode that code, right? And to decode that code there are many tools which are available, because the code that you do have, it is available in the encoded form, but while sending the request you have to go and decode this code. So to decode the code there are many tools which are available. You can use one of the tool that I put up here, and again I will put the link for this again in the video description. That is the URL decoder tool. Okay, so it's not opening, so let me go and type up here URL decoder. Right, this is the tool with the help of which we can go and decode the, this is the tool with the help of which we can go and decode our URL. So again, make sure that on the top the decode is selected, and here I will be pasting the code that I received from the previous step, and here I go and paste that code and click on the decode button. So this is my decoded code that I do have, and I should go and paste this decoded code here. Right, once you have done that, then you have to go and click on the send button. If everything goes well, so we are getting this error here. More of the reason that I can think of this error is coming because of this form URL encoded we have already selected here, so I don't think we have to go and specify the header. So let me go and uncheck the header from here, and again send the request. Okay, this time you can see we are getting the correct access token as well. Along with the access token we are getting the refresh token too. Now let's go and validate with this access token we are actually getting the records from the system or not, because now the integration is in place. We already have the access token. We have to validate whether we are getting any records or not, and for that I will be hitting one of the requests. So let me go here and look for the REST API developer guide help document, right? And in that guide, so I'll be navigating here. I'll be looking here for the let's say SOQL query that I want to execute. Okay, so QL that only comes up. Fine. Let me look for the query. The data cloud. I'm looking for a few of the examples. So if I scroll down, okay, we'll try with the limits query. This is also fine. We just have to validate whether it is coming up as expected or not. Okay, so what we have to do here is we have to go and send this request. So let's go and create the request from here. So I am creating the request and putting the request name here as the limits request, and I need to go and send the get request, right? Again I need to go and put the first domain. So this is the domain URL that I do have, and after that I will be putting the what is the endpoint that the limits API is expecting. So here I am putting the endpoint. Let's say for the time being I am putting the latest version here as 65.0, right? Again, coming back to the documentation, it does not expect anything else. Okay, For the authorization now, here we have to go and pass the token. So let's go and pass the token that we received from our previous request. So here I am navigating to the authorization and going here for the BLR token. Why BLR token? Because if you check the documentation, here they are asking us to pass the BLR token. So here I select the BLR and pass the token that I received from the previous step. So this is the token that I do have. So here I am copying it and navigating back to the system and pasting it here. Now with that token, let's see if we go and send the request, are we getting the data? It says the requested resource not found. That means something is wrong in our request. So we have put this correct services slash data. Let me check slash limits. Sending it one more time. So it's a get request. Authorization is there. No, header needs to be specified. Let me check in case they're asking for any header. The answer to this is no. Uh, Let me try to change the version here to something called 64 and clicking on send button. Yeah, I believe the previous version 65 was not valid, but with this version it is coming up successfully, and you guys can see that we are getting the expected data from the Salesforce. So this is how we have connected the Postman, which you can refer as a third-party system, to the Salesforce using the authorization code flow. For again, I'm doing a quick revision. First, I got the code by putting this thing in the URL. With that code, I am sending the request to get the access token. If you see in the body, I have selected the URL encoded form, put the code, client ID, client secret, URI, and this is the code. The code that we do have, it is available in the form of encoded form. So we have first decode that code and then use that code here, right? And from that code, what we received here is the access token. And with that access token, now we are able to fetch the data from the system as well. I hope you folks got the clarity how we can do the integration between the third party system to Salesforce using the authorization code flow. In case you do have any questions, any queries, do let me know in the comment section. Thank you. Have a good time.